Today we are going to learn a basic spiral stitch, which is the Russian spiral, and we're going to learn how to end it and make a little keychain out of it. These little keychains are very popular. One time I was just making a spiral and I never really did anything with it, so I ended it and put it on a keychain, and then several people have asked to have some of them because they think they're really cool. So this is a really good little project. Of course you can end it and make it for a bracelet or a necklace or whatever you want. But this is what we're going to do today. We're going to learn the Russian spiral. We're going to learn to end the Russian spiral, and we're going to learn how to make a keychain out of it. Like I said, you can do it any way you want, but the requests that I have gotten is not only for basic stitches, but to learn how to end the basic stitches also. There are lots of tutorials showing the stitches, but they do not show you how to end it. So in all of my basic stitches, I'm going to show you a little project and how to end the project so that when you learn your stitch, you can do something with it. So let's get a close-up so you can see what the Russian spiral looks like. This is check seed beads that I made this out of, and I'm going to use check seed beads again today so that I am showing you that you can use different brands and different types of beads and stitches too. Of course, you can use any kind of seed bead you want. You can use Toho, you can use Miyuki, but I recommend round ones for this stitch because tubular seed beads are not going to lay very nice in this, and they're going to look kind of funny. So round seed beads, 8/0s and 11/0s. And let's go ahead and look at what else we'll need. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to use check seed beads today, and I'm going to use an 8/0 and an 11/0 in check seed beads. If you use a Toho, it'll move a little faster because the beads are a little bigger. Miyuki, you can be about the same. But this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this blue color and this golden yellow color for my 11/0 and 8/0, and make sure you have at least 10 grams. These are hanks, half hanks actually, of seed beads, so there's quite a bit in here. But if you have little jars or little tubes, then you make sure that you have at least 10 grams of each one, just to make sure you have enough. And then you will need a couple of bead ends. These are little bead caps. And you can get these at Hobby Lobby. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them at any beading supply company. You can get them on eBay, Amazon. They come in all different shapes and sizes. You don't need really huge ones. You can get really big ones like this. You don't need these huge things, just a small bead cap. And they come, like I said, they're all different colors and shapes, and so get something that you think is pretty. And you'll need 2 of those. And then I have a couple of closed jump rings that are just kind of textured fancy ones. Closed jump ring means that it does not have a slit in it to where you can open and shut it. These are just completely closed. I'm using this so that my thread doesn't slide through, plus I can slide it onto my keychain. So you will also need a slip lock ring, a slip ring. You can get whatever size you want. This is a pretty large one. And you can find these again at all the hobby stores, at Walmart again, at any eBay, you can find these everywhere. So you'll need one of those. Let me back off a little bit. And then I'm going to use some 8-pound Fireline today. And I'm using it in the crystal. You can use 6-pound. You can use, probably even get away with 10-pound, though we're using 11/0 seed beads. We don't have to travel through them a ton of times, but you'd be safer with 6 or 8-pound Fireline. If you want to use nanofill, use an 8 or 10-pound nanofill. We're going to use a size 10 beading needle also. So we want to start with a fairly long length of thread. You are going to have to extend your thread during this project. So refer back to my video for, I think it's called Threading a Beading Needle and Adding Thread to a Project. And I believe it's either number 3 or 4 on my channel. So you will know how to add tie-on thread if you're not using Fireline, or to extend your Fireline for this project. To start, go ahead and put on a couple of yards, like 2 wingspans. A wingspan is when you take your thread and stretch both your arms straight out to your sides, straight out like you're flying, and measure from fingertip to fingertip right across your chest, from fingertip to fingertip. That's a wingspan. You'll want 2 of them, or 2 yards basically. So go ahead and thread a nice long length onto your needle. If you do not like working with huge amounts, I usually will just start with about a wingspan and then I'll extend. So you don't necessarily have to put a ton on as you learn the stitch. It'll be easier if you don't have to argue with your thread, because longer the thread, the more it tangles, and the more you can weaken your thread too. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have threaded onto my needle some 8-pound Fireline. I have 8/0 and 11/0 seed beads, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's get forward here so you can see. We're going to pick up an 8/0 and then 2 11/0s onto a needle, and then an 8/0 and 2 11/0s, an 8/0 and 2 11/0s. Like so. You get close so you can see them. So you're going to have 3 8/0s, and you're going to have 2 11/0s alternating in between them. So you will have 3 sets of 2 11/0s. Start with an 8/0, end with your 2 11/0s onto your needle, like so. Let me back off a little bit. Now we are going to take these beads and we're going to bring them down to the end of the thread. You will want to leave yourself a nice long length of thread to put on your ending when we're done with our spiral. Now I'm not going to leave that long, just so that I don't have to struggle with it while I'm showing you, but I'm going to leave enough to where I can extend it. Now if you would like to extend your Fireline, at the end, remember I have a video on that, so you will know how to do it. But otherwise, just leave yourself a really long tail. Then wrap your beads around in a circle like this and come into the first bead you put on. So from the tail side, you're going to come back through the first 3 beads like so, and just pull these into a circle. And then you're going to sew through all of the beads. Like so. Once you get to where your tail thread and your working thread, the working thread is the one the needle is on, that side. So once you get to where your tail thread and your working thread are, we're going to tie a knot. So just loop it around and bring the thread through the loop and bring the knot down in between the beads. 1 knot should be sufficient. If it isn't, tie another, but I don't want to have these slide through my beads and block them, so I'm just going to make 1 little knot to hold my beads steady for me. This is what we have now. So what we are going to do is we've got our little knot right here. We're going to go into this 8/0 and then into the 11/0 behind it, and we're going to exit between those 2 11/0s and pull the thread through. Now to start our spiral, we will pick up a series of beads and then go into the next 11/0 behind the 8/0. So you're always going to look at it and know that you have to pick up, you're going to be exiting between the 2 11/0s. You're going to pick up your biggest bead first, always. So you'll pick up an 8/0 and then you'll pick up 2 11/0s. You will go behind the big bead, always behind the 8/0, and go into the 11/0 behind it and exit just that 11/0 and pull your beads through. Make sure your tension is good. which means your thread is tight, you don't have any slack in it. Now we're exiting these two little 11-0 seed beads here. We're going to pick up an 8-0 first, always the bigger bead first, and then 2 11-0s. We're going to look for our next big bead after where our thread is exiting. Our next big bead is here. We're going to go to the bead behind that next big bead, and we're going to go through it and pull these down and tighten them. And now we are coming out of this 11-0 seed bead here. You will notice that there's only one bead behind it, but that's okay. That's the bead we are going to go behind. This is where everyone gets confused, is this step right here. So pick up an 8-0 and just pretend like there's several beads or 2 beads behind there, and then just find your next 8-0, pick up your big bead, your 2 little beads, find your next big 8-0 and go into the 11-0 behind it, like so, and pull. Now you're going to have this weird little spiral looking thing, and that's okay. It just looks like a little, I don't know, little spirograph spiral. And then you are going to do the same thing. You're exiting this little 11-0 right here. You're going to pick up your next 8-0, always the big bead first, and then 2 11-0s. You're going to skip over your 8-0, go into the 11-0 behind it. Now as you pull this one through, it should just kind of go on top of the other beads, like so. And that's okay, that's starting our tube. So now we're coming out of this 11-0, we are going to pick up an 8-0, that's a funny one, an 8-0 and 2 11-0s. And then we're going to find the next 8-0, and it seems like it's far away on this one, but that's okay. Just find that 8-0 right there and go into the bead behind it. And pull this up tight, and it will go on top of your beads, like so. Let me get these out of the way a little bit so you can see me better. There we go. The tail is going to be in the way a little bit, so just keep pushing it out of the way, and this will start to cup as we do this. So you can see it's kind of cupping up. I'm coming out of this 11-0 seed bead, but I can see my next 8-0 very closely, so I know I need to go into the 11-0 behind it. Even though it's cupped, you can still tell where you're at by looking for your 8-0 that's closest to where your thread is coming out. Pick up your 8-0 first, as always. Pick up 2 11-0s and go into the 11-0 right behind the 8-0 on your piece. Pull. Make sure you pull tightly. You want really good tension on this. And now I still have a little funny looking cup thing. It'll start to be easier to handle in the next few stitches. The first few are a little bit tougher to handle. Pick up an 8-0, 2 11-0s. This is my next 8-0, so I'm going to go into the 11-0 behind it and pull this down tight. And make sure my tension is tight. And now you can see it's kind of turning into a tube. Pick up an 8-0 and 2 11-0 seed beads. I'm coming out here. I'm going to look for my next 8-0 here, closest to where my thread is coming out, and go through the bead behind it. And pull. And we're going to continue in this manner. So we're going to pick up an 8-0, 2 11-0s. This is my next 8-0 here. I'm going to go into the bead behind it. If I can get that tail out of the way. This is why I don't like having a really long tail. I'll have a shorter one and then I will extend it. Because I'm using Fireline, I can do that. But it just gets in the way. So then I'm going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead and 2 11-0s. Again, I'll look for my next big 8/0 and I'll go into the bead behind it. Now, if you happen to put your piece down and walk away and you can't figure out where you're at, you know that you're ready for a next 8/0 if you're coming out of the piece and you have 3 little 11/0s in line. So there'll be 3 little 11/0s in line. You know you're ready for your 8/0 and your next 2 11/0s to go through the next one. You will see, because everywhere else on your piece will have 2 in between the 8/0s. When you're ready to start a new stitch, you will have 3. Pick up an 8/0 and 2 11/0 seed beads. Find your next 8/0, go into the bead behind it. Pull it tight. 8/0, 2 11/0s. Find the 8/0, go into the bead behind it. And again, 8/0, 2 11/0s. And go into the bead behind the next 8/0. Pull it tight. 8/0, 2 11/0s. Go into the bead behind the 8/0. I'm using check seed beads, so if you see me toss a bead, it's because it's one that's a little off size. Check seed beads can be a little off size. Even though these are pretty nice ones, I will still find some that are a little funny shaped, or one that's really skinny and one that's really fat, and I'll just toss it aside and not put it on my piece because I don't want there to be a huge discrepancy in sizes. A little bit is fine, but if it's obviously odd, then I will not use it. If you're using toe hose, your piece will be a little bit bigger than mine, and you'll finish a little faster, which is always a good thing. So pick up an 8/0, and I'm just continuing the same repetitive stitch all the way. Very easy. Once you get to this point, you will just see right where you need to go. Always pick up your 8/0 and then 2 11/0s. Find the next 8/0. My thread's here, my 8/0's here, I'll go in here. And let me show you. It's starting to spiral. So we will just continue doing this until we have about, I think mine is about 10 inches. I will measure it and let you know. And once we have that long of a rope, then we will end it and put on our keychain. So I have measured this one, and it is about 11 inches long from bead cap to bead cap. Of course, you can make it however long or short you want to make it. And if you want to make this into a bracelet or a necklace, then you will just measure it around your wrist or on a bead board. This is my bead, or you can even use a ruler. Measure it. A small bracelet is usually 6 inches, a medium bracelet is 7 inches, and a large bracelet is 8 inches. You will need to leave it an inch short of the length you want. So if you want to make a 6-inch bracelet, then you will go to 5 inches. And so on and so forth. So like if you want to make a 7, you'll leave it at 6. That way it gives you an inch to put your clasping on. And you can end it the way I've done it and still slide on some clasps. Instead of putting on these rings, you'll sew on your clasps. And I will show you what I mean when we get to that point. So if you are making a bracelet, then make it to the length that you want, or make it an inch short of the length you want your finished bracelet to be. If you're making a necklace, do the same thing. Make it to an inch short of what you want. An 18-inch necklace is usually 18 or 20 inches, usually what you'll want to make. That will fit most everyone. A 20 will be a little longer, and an 18 will be more collar length, right below your collarbones. for an average size person. So go ahead and continue making your little spiral the way I showed you. If you need to refer back to the video, just back it up and watch it again until you are able to work the spiral on your own. Work it to the length you want and then tune back in and we will end the project. Okay, so as you can see, I have gone completely to length with my spiral. And I want to get close and show you how pretty my spiral is. See, it turned out really pretty. These are Czech seed beads. Like I said, they're more affordable than Japanese seed beads. There were some inconsistencies, but it didn't matter because in the spiral, you can't really tell. It looks just as pretty as it can be. So you can use some of the more affordable seed beads or if you already have some and you've been told that they're not good, it's not true. There is a use for them. So these are Czech seed beads, like I said, and my spiral turned out really pretty. What I'm going to show you now is how to end the piece. So if you look at my end here, this is where I've been working, and I've got my 3 little 11-0s in line. You can see where I would put my next 8-0 and move on. I am at the end of that row, and you can tell that because my 8-0s are basically at the same level. If you have not finished a row, if you're in the middle of a row, your 8-0s will be much higher than the rest of the beads in the row, and you'll need to finish out the row before you can end your piece. Now, if you look at the other side, you will see it's all cinched in and tight, and this side is open, like you can see down into the tube. So we need to cinch in this end to look like this end. So what we're going to do is we are coming out of the 11-0 seed bead here just like we'd start a new row normally. But this time we're going to pick up an 8-0 and 1 11-0 instead of an 8-0 and 2 11-0s. Let me back off just a little bit here. And we're going to go ahead and do like we normally would. We're going to find our next 8-0, go into the 11-0 behind it, and pull these 2 beads down. Then we're going to do that again. We're going to pick up an 8-0 and 1 11-0. We're going to find the next 8-0, go into the seed bead behind it, like so. Then we're going to do that one more time to finish our row. So we're going to pick up an 8-0 and 11-0 seed bead. Find the next 8-0, go into the 11-0 behind it, like so. And see how it is a little tighter now? So what we're going to do is we're just going to go into this 8-0 here, the 1 11-0 behind it. No, I'm not picking up any beads. I'm just going to go into the 11-0 behind it, and then I'm going to go into the next 8-0 and the 11-0 behind it. Let's get really close so you can see. And then I'm going to go into the next 8-0 and the 11-0 behind it. Pull tight, and then I'm going to go into the 8-0 and the 11-0 behind it until I have it nice and cinched in. I can pull tight and you can see that my end is now closed. Now we are going to finish these ends off so that we can put our key ring on. So what we need to do is we need to pick up our bead end, our bead cap, and we're going to get one of our closed jump rings, and I'm going to sew until I'm coming out of an 8-0 seed bead. So right here I just need to go one more bead, and I want to come out of this 8-0 right here. If I can get into it, there we go. Cinch this tight. I'm going to tie a knot to finish off my work. So I'm between this 8-0 and this 11-0. There's a little piece of thread in between, and thread in between the beads in a stitch is called a thread bridge. We're going to go under that thread bridge. We're going to then go through the loop that our thread is creating and pull down until we get a nice little knot between the beads there. Then I'm going to sew through this 11-0 that I'm right next to, and then into the next 8-0 here and exit. Pull this all tight, And now I am going to pick up my bead cap. Now as I'm doing this, I like to kind of keep the bead cap far away so that I can see my beads to sew through them, and then I'll pull it through and anchor it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up through my bead cap. I'm coming out of an 8/0 seed bead, as you can see. And then I am going to go through my closed jump ring, like so. Bring this down. Don't worry about having it all neat and tight. It doesn't matter at this point. Now we're coming out of the jump ring here. We've got to go around the jump ring, so let me lay it out so you can see what I mean. Go around the jump ring, go back into the bead cap, and then go back into the 8/0 seed bead on the opposite side from which we're exiting. So you can see my thread is there. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to pull this down, and then I'm just going to loosen it back up so I can see. Now I'm going to sew through this 11/0 here and the next 8/0 seed bead. So I'll go through this 11/0, I'll go through this 8/0 here, I will go up through my bead cap, still leaving this all pretty loose, and I'll go through the jump ring. Let's see, what side am I on? Yep, I'm going to go around the jump ring, go back down into my bead cap, like so. I'll pull this through, and then I will go into the opposite side of the 8/0 seed bead from which I'm exiting. So I'm exiting here. I'm going to go into this side, and then I'm going to start to pull it just a little bit tighter so that I don't have a big wad when I try to tighten this up. Then I'm going to go into the next 8/0 seed bead here, maybe. My hands are a little shaky, a little bit too much caffeine this morning, sorry guys. Into this 8/0, exit, and then up through the bead cap, and then I also went through the jump ring so I can go around it, go back down into my bead cap, find the bead that I'm coming out of and go into the opposite side of it, like so, and pull this all tight. I'm going to go up around this bead cap one more time. So I'm going to go up into the bead cap, and see as I pulled how that tightened that. I'm going to go around my jump ring, and this is, it's a little too, it starts, if you pull it too tight you can't get around it, so you just want to leave it a little loose. And then we're going to go back into this 8/0 seed bead here, right underneath it, pull tight. This is where you want to pull nice and tight. Now we're just going to sew into our beadwork beneath it. So I'm right next to this 8/0 seed bead. I'm going to go into it in the 11/0, pull tight, and then I want to kind of follow my beadwork, but it's kind of hard to do right underneath. So I'm going to go into this 8/0 here, right here. I'm going to go into these 11/0s here, and I'm just going to go through the 3 11/0s. So this, you don't have to be crazy about, oh, Gina went through this one, I have to go through. You don't have to worry about that. Just go through them the best you can and make sure that you're going through beads that are next to each other so that you don't see your thread crossing all over the place. So you just want to go through beads that are right next to each other. So see, I went through these 3 11/0s. Now I can go down into this blue one, the 8/0, and then I can sew into these 3 11/0s here. And I can do this as much as I want to. I'm going to grab the thread in between these 11/0s here, and I'm going to tie a knot. Try to stay with your original thread path as much as you can. but it is a little difficult right under here to get into a spiral, spiraling your thread here. And then I'm going to go down into this 8/0 here. And I will tie another knot. And you can sew as much or as little as you like. Well, you should sew more than less, actually. Make sure it's nice and secure. Tie several knots like I'm doing. Make sure the thread goes down between the beads. After you tie a knot, just travel through a few more beads so that you don't cut your thread off right next to where your knot is and it slips through. So I'm just going to sew up through a few more of these. And because I'm not perfectly following my beadwork, I don't want to sew all over the place. So I'm just going to sew through a few here. And I am going to cut off my thread here once I feel like it's secure. And I could have sewn some more, but for the sake of the video, we'll cut it off. I'm going to burn that down, tuck it in, and you can see that that's ended, and it's ended pretty nicely. Looks pretty good. Okay, so if you want to make your project into a necklace or a bracelet instead of a keychain, when we're sewing up through and attaching the jump ring, instead of using a jump ring, just grab a toggle clasp and sew up through the loop on the toggle clasp, the same way I've shown you to sew up through the jump ring. Instead of using a jump ring, just place your end of your toggle clasp there, sew up through it, sew down through your bead cap, and then into your beads, just like I showed you, the same exact way with the closed jump ring. Same thing for the other end, just grab your other end and sew up through the loop on it. So that is the way that you will end it if you want to make a necklace or a bracelet out of this project. So now what you're going to do is you are going to take your tail thread and do the same thing on the other side with your tail thread. So you will take your needle, put it on the tail, and put your end on exactly like I put the end on this side. You can refer back, you can reverse it, or you can move the video back a little bit and watch the first side and do the second side if you'd like. If you did not leave a long enough thread, then you can extend your Fireline or tie on if you need to. But there is a video that you'll have to refer to do that, because I'm not going to show you that here. I do have a video, and it's called Threading a Beading Needle and Extending Fireline or Adding Thread to a Project. I will put the link in the description box, so if you need to extend your Fireline, you can do that and put this end on. Go ahead and put your end on, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished both of my ends. Just like I showed you on the first side, I did the second side. Now I'm going to slide on my slip lock clasp. Everyone knows the keychain. You just open the two pieces here and slide it on. I like to slide both of them on at the same time and just bring it around. And that is your finished little project. You can do this in all different kinds of spirals. This works great for most all of the spirals. I did this one with a chenille stitch here, which we'll learn later on the channel. But this one is a chenille, and I did this all in 8/0 seed beads. This is another Russian spiral I showed you at the beginning, and this is done in check seed beads also. But as you can see, this one is done in check seed beads, 8/0s and 11/0s. The diameter is different because check seed beads tend to not even be, these 11/0s were smaller than these 11/0s. So, you know, it happens, but when you're using one full package of one color with another full package of another color, it doesn't matter. Now, if I were to mix these 8/0s in each one, it might have made a difference, or if the 11/0s, simply because they're a little bit different in size. But for a full project, it didn't really matter. So, like I said, using your more affordable beads on spirals if you're staying with it. Even if you have a different color, it doesn't matter really in this type of spiral. It will work out just fine. So that is your little keychain tutorial and how to do the basic Russian spiral stitch. I hope you enjoyed it and try it out. Bye-bye.